Welcome back, everyone.
Hello.
Alex and I have been trying to set up our sound laboriously, trying to get the noise reduction down. Hopefully it sounds better today. So should we go for the weird stuff from the internet?
Yes.
So the Twitter is hiding likes now.
Really? I didn't know.
Everyone was talking about like why they're implementing this, and apparently the story is much stupider than you think. Allegedly, we have to say allegedly, Elon got caught liking NSFW content on Twitter. Just his likes were public. So the next day, suddenly he had this decree that likes are no longer supposed to be seen by anyone. Allegedly.
I see why allegedly is in there.
The famously litigious owner of Tesla.
How simple it is when you're an owner of the company. You just decide at some points, you know what? I did something bad, but it's not my fault, and I don't want anyone to see it. I'm just going to make the whole company to change the functionality and the feature.
When I read like old fantasy novels, every time I'm like, man, why do they always have an insane king? And that's what it feels like out at Twitter. They have a madman just on his own whims being like, I don't like this.
That's a good point. Actually, I did not compare Elon to something obnoxious as that. That's fun. My weird news were leaked memo claims New York Times fired artists to replace them with AI.
Well, I'd expect the New York Times to do that. The recent crop of them. As somebody who used to read them like years ago, they've been increasingly obnoxious with their editorial standards. They've always been stopping journalists within their own ranks from telling stories, and interns are really, really unhappy there. So I expect this to be the next way for them to go.
That's what you have on the Onion browser, on the darknet. You have all these whistleblower websites where you can just come in and, basically report anything. But here, they said that the New York Times has allegedly fired the 9 of its 16 artists, replacing them with AI. According to leaked memo from the New York Times Guild, this move, part of the broader cost-saving efforts. So basically, they fired a bunch of people from their artist department or design department so they can use Gen AI within their articles that they write. For example, what did they say as well? Oh yeah, because the New York Times Guild criticized the move, highlights the unique value of human-created AI. Also, the New York Times claims that the cuts were voluntarily buyouts. So what they also said they're going to do, that they will pay the artists who are leaving to buy out their artist work. And I don't know.
That's, it's, when you do that, when you find a professional graphic designer to do this stuff, at first it'll work out for you, but by the end there's just going to be too much samey AI art. It's just not good at variety right now. It always makes stuff overly shiny. It always cuts corners around, like for example, cloth and skin textures. It always tries to make them high contrast, just because if it tries to like blend it, sometimes it confuses skin textures and cloth.
Or fingers.
So right now it plays it safe in certain specific ways. It avoids fingers nowadays. So artists are gonna be much more versatile at this because they've been training at this for like years. They probably went to university and design school and all of that. So in the short term, nobody may even notice, but in the long term, people are just going to be like, why does everything look a little bit the same?
Eventually it will. Right?
Why is it always shiny-skinned people with big eyes?
This is what scares me, that eventually as AI learns from users, right, from people, from designers, from creators, from copywriters, from coders as well, eventually as it produces more and more generated stuff, it will teach itself based on its previous generated stuff, which is going to be stuck in a loop of AI generating AI stuff from previously AI generated stuff. I think that it's a vicious cycle, and it's not going to be producing any higher quality. I think it's just going to be diminishing quality every time this will be done.
So this is interesting. I read this a while back, and you just reminded me of this. But AI apparently really can't read its own stuff. Like AI image generators, especially, they really break after being trained on AI-generated data.
Because it's so bad.
So what happens is there was this paper, and these scientists at Rice and Stanford University found that feeding AI-generated content to AI models seems to cause their output quality to really erode. Trained generative AI models, large language models, and image generators both included, actually. So I was wrong. So something about how AI writes messes with AI. Like it breaks its own self-induced parameters.
Fair. It doesn't understand its own logic or something?
Not exactly that. It's written in such a way that it like parses data and translates it into the most milquetoast sort of writing style, or milquetoast sort of art style. So when it tries to see something that's AI generated, it just can't continue the breadcrumb trail.
That's so interesting. I'm pretty sure they're gonna solve it, but if they will,
yeah,
because otherwise this is a downhill from here of again AI generating even lesser quality content.
So it says, without fresh real data, translation, original human work as opposed to stuff spit out by AI to feed the beast, we can expect its output to suffer drastically. I'm reading from a Futurism article by a self-kryptonite, Maggie Harrison Dupree. Sorry, always credit. Don't want to be like the AI.
There. I have another topic that is actually as well AI related. Tim Cook admits Apple will never be able to make its AI stop lying. And I quote, "I would never claim that it's 100%. So therefore, what I'm thinking, that's basically, he says, he very much said that despite significant investment in AI, ensuring 100% accuracy remains a challenge. And he expressed his confidence that AI's quality is good, but acknowledged its limitations. So therefore, providing false data, he calls a limitation.
Yeah, I mean, they always call it a limitation because when social media launched and fake news spread,
is that a limitation?
It was, in my opinion, they thought of it as a feature, not a bug.
That totally helped them?
It helped them. They're not going to undercut their business model.
That's true. But can you call it something as again, how did you say? He said it is not 100%, and he said that it is a limitation. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a limit. Like, fake news is not a limitation.
Yeah, that's clever phrasing for the disastrous outcomes of our technology. Yeah, we don't want to take accountability for it. The other problem here is Apple just seems to not know what to do.
That's literally what you just said. The guy admitted. Well, Tim Cook has said Apple Intelligence may not always prevent inaccuracies or hallucinations. Despite significant investment in AI, he cannot ensure 100% accuracy.
Yeah.
So therefore, there are some acknowledged limitations.
I was listening to a podcast called Better Offline with Ed Zitron, and he has a sneaking suspicion. He's a very intelligent dude who's got a lot of like insight into the tech world, and he was like, this seems to be a new age of like technology where they can't really do tech demos anymore. They come out and say, this thing will be fantastic in a few years. You just need to use it until it's better. And there's never usually a promise of that. I mean, it happened with the metaverse. It happened with it's happening with the Apple VR, for example.
That's true.
It's happening with the AI in a lot of sectors. I mean, there's good AIs out there. There's some very handy ones. I've seen one that was like it could do green screen capture or mocap without the need of a suit. It would just sort of scan the person. And it wasn't working perfectly, but I can see that as an application. But so many like AI models come out nowadays, and it's just like, what are you? The promise is that it will be able to do something in the future, and that's just not that wouldn't cut it like 20 years ago. It was like, why should I invest?
That's actually such a good point. And right now, the tech bros, it's all about move fast and break things and then fix it as you go. But then, of course, you're going to spend all the investors' money, all the VC money, and then you're going to result in nothing. Have you seen this AI rabbit?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. 100,000 copy.
They raise billions of dollars.
Yeah, and now it's absolutely useless with now everything that Microsoft releases with its AI applications and everything that right now Apple announced as well. It's such a useless thing, and it doesn't work.
Even more than that, they're just forcing people to use it sometimes. Microsoft is just saying, oh, you're going to have to use our AI to be able to access your stuff, which is a insane thing for them to try to push on people.
And it will get better.
Everyone's saying it's not 100% there. It will lie to you. It will do all this. And we're still having to like be forced into this sort of technocratic mess, where they're telling us this is good for you. Actually, it'll be great later. Nobody would sell a car like that. Well, Elon Musk would, the Cybertruck, but no, you don't sell any other product like that. Only the tech industry gets away with this, where they say, oh, it's just a beta test.
Man, I just had like a complete twist in my head from what you just said, that literally you would not do this for any product.
Yeah.
It's like, buy this TV, it doesn't work, but eventually, buy this frying pan. It doesn't fry really, but eventually it will. Man, so...
For me, this all started with lightly with cryptocurrency. Where, cryptocurrency does do what it professes on a technological standpoint, so I'll give them the credit there. But the idea was this is going to replace currency eventually, so you better cash in quick. And now they've stopped making that argument, and they've gone to, well, now it's a really good gambling tool.
That's true.
So it's like, we're going to put out this technology and then figure out later what it's for. That is a huge trend within the tech industry nowadays.
Yeah, they found something new and they wanted to test it. So they basically tried sticking it into everything, into decentralized finance. They stick it into, as you said, gambling, into anonymity, into trading, into whatever tech identity. So I see as well what you mean, that they plug it in everywhere. And of course, the majority of the people, because they heard all these news like, oh, Bitcoin goes only up, Pepe coin. And that's where a lot of gamblers, they also get involved and burn themselves. And they're like, oh, no, this is bad tech.
I'm starting to dub this wave of tech speculative tech,
Yeah.
In the sense that, in both senses of the word. In one sense that it's speculative what it will be for in the future. In the other sense, it's speculative in terms of how people are buying the stocks for it. It's a speculator's market. It's always, oh, invest now, invest now, invest now. We'll figure out if it's a viable business later. I mean, no wonder Silicon Valley Bank collapsed.
That's also true. I was hearing somewhere, we can wrap this up to move to the next topic.
Yeah, this wasn't supposed to be the main topic.
But that everyone says, oh, people who are gambling with crypto is a bunch of degens. However, they said that Wall Street also is a bunch of degens in one room gambling on different companies. And it's like, oh, stocks can now go to zero. And there's so many examples where stocks also go to zero, the same way as rock pools with crypto.
I agree. I mean, I don't much like the stock market either. I don't think it's a good way to have a business run properly in the current form that it has. I mean, this... people, I remember whenever on the news they're talking about, oh, the NASDAQ says this, and you're like, that doesn't tell you anything about how the economy is doing or how the business is doing. There are so many businesses that do very well on stock market just through the sheer bullshit of their owners.
We'll have to make this actually a bigger topic.
Some of
I have a feeling that there's some scoops we can discuss there.
Oh, yeah. This is a huge bugbear of mine, at least. When the stock market doesn't reflect reality. Someone once said, and this is a quote I really like, I don't know who it is, they're like, the stock market is just a graph of rich people's feelings.
That's true. It's all about emotions, right? Because it doesn't reflect reality. And I've seen somewhere another very interesting saying that, is it is it okay to lie by big, let's say, financial institutions, or is it okay to lie by, let's say, the state economists who are in the government when they come out and say they lie that the economy is doing well? And they started checking what the news were during actually crisis moments during history, and they said they always projected in much better situations than they were in the reality. Why? Because if you actually come out to the people and you're a government and you say, you know what, economy sucks now. People are just going to start taking out the cash, selling stock, just trying to hoard the money. So therefore, what's going to happen? The economy will actually collapse. So therefore, in struggling times, they raised the question, is it ethically correct to lie to the citizens of the country that the economy actually sucks, just to prevent the citizens themselves to screw up the economy?
Yeah, even that's a very sort of like, I can't believe I used this word twice in the podcast now. That's a very technocratic view, where you can just lie to people because it's good for them.
Right. Even governments do that.
Yeah. Governments always say that and it always blows up in their face, but that's a whole different thing. Right now, they're having the opposite problem in the U.S. The economy's doing fairly well.
That's what they tell you.
No, I'm talking about economists talking about it. They're having the opposite problem in that nobody can convince people it's doing well because everyone's talking about doom and gloom. So then nobody trusts the government when they say it's doing good. So that becomes a whole nother issue, boy who cried wolf sort of.
Oh my God.
Issue. But yeah, it's doing better than most eras, but at the same time, the type of economy the U.S. is, when it's doing well, it doesn't always reflect well on people's lives.
Talking about money, price discrimination.
Oh, yeah. So for those who aren't aware, price discrimination is an economic concept, and that's going to be the main topic of our podcast today. And it basically means when you can set different prices for different segments or different geographic elements or different psychographic elements sometimes, and you can treat different consumers differently. And it's controversial. It's been controversial since the beginning. I mean, the word discrimination raises alarm bells for everyone, but we're going to discuss the good and the bad of it, because there are some good points, and it can be used properly depending on what the exact situation is. Anyway.
And I learned these three things from the types of price discrimination, because it does really sound bad when you hear it for the first time. And I was aware of the practices, but I was not aware of how is it actually called. So there are three levels. So the first degree of price discrimination is called perfect price discrimination, so where the seller charges each consumer their maximum willingness to pay. For example, auctions or personalized pricing strategies. The second degree of price discrimination, it's when the prices vary based on the quantity consumed or the product version. For example, bulk pricing. So buy two, get one for free. Volume discounts, or some sort of version of a software. You always have packages like, hey, package one, package two. Exactly. So and the third degree of price discrimination is different prices are charged for different demographic groups. So, for example, student discounts, senior citizen discounts, or regional pricing. Or, for example, if you buy Photoshop in the Netherlands, it's, I don't know, 50 euros. I don't actually know how much. But then if you buy it in India somewhere, there's going to be 10. Or Brazil. So therefore, it is a price discrimination. However, it's the one that allows other countries as well to use the software.
On some element, whenever you talk about price discrimination in some economics classroom, somebody eventually goes, well, that's just how the market works, And you're like, yeah, it's a description of how the market works, but this is a very willful setting of prices. It's a very sort of calculated sort of thing. So it's different from the free hand of the market deciding prices. It's when a company kind of goes, oh, this segment and this segment are different, we can charge them differently, rather than them deciding their prices in negotiation with the company through market forces.
Exactly. And if you want to enter, let's say, a specific market, and you know that market, let's say, is not rich enough or not big enough, and you want to still help them, if your product is actually helpful, you want to lower the prices, even though the margin is going to be very little. you still want to enter that specific, let's say, industry or field, so you can help the industry to grow by using your software.
Yeah.
So I totally see that with software, but I disagree with things, for example, like I pull up some examples like pharmaceuticals. I disagree with airlines.
Yep.
So those things piss me off.
Yeah. I mean, we've tried to book flights at the same time for work, and the amount of different prices we all get all across the world.
It's so weird. I hate that. I hate that so much.
I mean, at some point, I just put on a VPN to see what the cheapest prices are.
Dude, I literally got a VPN just to do that.
Yeah. Which we recommend you do as well. Don't let airline prices.
No one sponsors us, though. I do use NordVPN.
We're not sponsored by Nord. We'd like to be.
So I wrote down that pharmaceuticals, and I basically wanted to pull out a few controversies within the industry. So different prices for the same drugs in different countries. So they're often significantly cheaper in developing countries compared to developed countries. So this has led to debates about the fairness, it's like, is it okay? I know that in US you have all these, I think it was for type 2 diabetes, it was so expensive to buy the EpiPens or something.
The most extreme version of this is what Martin Shkreli
yes,
doing.
That was the first thing I thought about.
That's the most extreme version. That's like the most evil version of this. That's actually price gouging, which goes into a completely different territory,
He's an asshole.
Price discrimination, the price discrimination and price gouging are different in the same way that like punching someone and murder are different. Yeah. There's just very big extremes and one is illegal.
Yeah, but imagine
both are illegal.
Imagine this would be on, let's say I want to say as well, the bigger towns, and like, let's say if we take a city and you take a smaller town, they sometimes also have different prices for products, for groceries, or they have different gas prices. And I also see that, pharmaceuticals probably they kind of apply-ish, maybe not so, but if you take US is a huge country.
Yeah.
So therefore I see how separate that can be. But if you take Europe, you can drive from the Netherlands 2 hours to Germany, and I know that a lot of people go there just to buy, I don't know.
Oh, funny you mentioned that. One time I was on like bowl.com and I noticed that certain razor blades were cheaper and they were coming in from Germany. So I ordered those thinking, I'm saving like half the money. They were really bad razor blades, to be honest. Whatever they were doing, they were rough against my skin. It was the same brand. It was the Gillette for the Mach 5s.
Made in Deutschland.
Yeah,
terrible. But that's exactly the point, right? So it is as well, obviously, because in Netherlands is a unique example where there are like 4 different borders and like 3 hours away. So I get that. I wrote another controversy. It's Amazon. Allegations of personalized pricing where customers were charged different pricing for the same products based on their browsing history or purchase
history, ratings, reviews, and other factors. I've got that in my notes as well. This is something that every retailer does now because the most valuable thing that they have is data. And with that data, they can pinpoint you exactly. There used to be a wall of confidence between you and the buyer, you and the seller. The buyer can just sort of go on with their lives, not be like have their life probed into to this extent that somebody can go, this person's really willing to pay this price, we should charge them differently. And, storefronts can't make you see selective prices. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to bring this topic in, because apps have changed all that. Apps they're different for everybody. When you look at a thing, when you look at a website, when you look at your Amazon list, it's gonna show you a different set of prices than the person next to you, and that means this economic concept, price discrimination, has existed since since the early 20th century. It's hypercharged it in a way that was never individualized to this extent.
It's a good point. Well, people used to trade goats for stuff, so now that was hard to gouge the price or have price discrimination. But yeah, I think it's applications is a very good point, because then you do not take maybe the effort to research because like, my app says this.
Yeah.
and you don't take the effort to go and Google something. But I feel like when I'm on the website, when I'm using Amazon for my laptop, I tend to research more than when I'm on the app. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
In my case, I always just look at the Google top results and look at glance at the prices for a bit.
Fair. Yeah, I do that as well. But it depends, right? If it's a software that you want to pay for, I know that at some point when we were using a social media management tooling, what we did, I just changed my IP to India, and then I say like 1,000 euros for a year. So during the whole year, I just, had to pay much less. It was the same, not really good tool, however, but I paid less for it.
Another tip.
Yeah. So therefore, it does work, but it's also a little bit ridiculous. It's so open.
Well, we've kind of gotten used to this version that Amazon does because it's everywhere now. Bol.com, Alibaba here, and it's mainly. The main issue with it comes down to they sometimes don't tell who their end retailers. They just kind of go, "Oh, we're charging this price, so you're going to get this much cut." So in Amazon's case, it actually leads to a bit of problems for the sellers.
That's also true because that makes sense. Well, the next one I wrote actually was airlines. So dynamic pricing, where the ticket vary based on the factors like booking time, demand, customer profile. The common practice is sometimes leads to accusations of unfair pricing.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with that. However, now any kind of prices for flights are insane.
Yeah.
But that's a different problem. But I also understand if you are from, let's say, a country that doesn't, I don't know, I'll take Brazil, right? Brazil doesn't have a very strong currency, right? And if they have to fly to Europe, they have to pay the same 2,000 euros, 1,000 euros to go. I think that's insane. Mm-hmm. So I do see why they would have cheaper for the same flight. But then I don't understand if you fly from the Netherlands and you're like, oh, I'm using the same airline, it's the same flight, but they basically get less money. The airline gets less money on the flight from Brazil, but to Brazil, they get more money. Maybe it balances out, but I feel it's still unfair. I think it's fair for, let's say, people who live there.
Yeah.
But I feel it's unfair for the people in the Netherlands, even though they can't afford it. I don't know. It's a weird cognitive dissonance in my head.
Yeah, airline pricing has always sort of been a mess. There's never been a good system for it. And this kind of gets into where price discrimination goes wrong. I think we talked about this on a podcast before. I mentioned Cory Doctorow came up with the term enshitification.
No, I don't remember.
Oh, awesome. I always fear that I'm bringing things up again because these are like constant obsessions in my head. And you're afraid you've drunkenly rambled to somebody to tell me about these. So Cory Doctorow came up with this term called enshitification. It's when you develop a technology or an app or a software and you make the ideal version of it, but then paywall it in different modes. So you're making the process worse for everybody until they pay the full amount. So you've got freemium is a great example of this. There'll be a premium version of whatever you're wanting to use behind a paywall, but the freemium version is also there and it doesn't quite work, but it serves like a secondary fundraising purpose. Maybe they're collecting your data, maybe they're doing something else, maybe you're the beta tester for all these features. So price discrimination kind of gets there, It sort of leads to different tiers of experience for consumers as well.
It does fall into the price discrimination as well.
Price discrimination usually happens when it's the same product for different types of people, but it can also be worse in the sense you brought up, like in India, this will be cheaper. Not software, but I know for us, products that are sometimes made there are made with cheaper goods. Yeah, and they skirt the regulations that would happen in the EU, and they're worse.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you've seen the EU right now also is banning everything that is imported from China, or not banning, sorry, they're raising the tax.
Yeah.
So a lot of companies are going to be struggling to make China not be a monopoly in Europe.
And for work, we were writing about solar panels for quite a while, and suddenly there was a massive surplus of solar panels in the UK because China was outpricing everyone.
Yeah.
So the surplus actually caused a small boom in the market that led to an instant drop. And the prices have been going down like crazy. There's a whole bunch of reasons for this, but part of it is just that China can outbid everyone.
That's also true.
But that's a slightly different that's a slightly different topic. The macroeconomics episode will have to be some other day.
I have a few more examples. I have Uber.
I also have Uber and Airbnb, and I think they go together.
Yeah, I have Uber, Apple, and Cola. So I'll go with Uber. So Uber controversy, search pricing where the prices increase during the periods of high demand. And that sucks, or where there's like one Uber driver in the whole city, and he can basically decline as much as he wants until the price goes crazy up. I don't know how that works, but basically this led to a lot of outcry in the public where, you know, there's like a emergency or a natural disaster. And then Uber says, well, yes, it's a little bit of a flood. So therefore, due to these bad weather conditions, we have to pay quadruple. I think that's also not nice.
I think there were a whole bunch of examples on a podcast with David Dayan, who inspired this entire train of thought that we started researching, you know? And he brought up how exact Uber is about your behavior. They'll take back data on how much battery your phone has. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. And they'll go like, we're going to charge this guy more because he's more desperate.
I did not know that, but that's a good point.
If your phone has low battery, Uber is going to do that. And then somebody else was speculating that, and there's no confirmation because they can't really confirm this.
Yeah.
That if you have both Bolt and Uber on your phone, they start competing.
Wow.
So I have multiple ride-sharing apps.
I need to download an extra few apps, and I need to charge my phone.
Yeah.
Have a power bank.
Have a power bank constantly with you.
I imagine you're in a pub somewhere. It's like, oh, I have to go home soon. I'm going to order Uber. You know what? Wait, let me charge my phone first. And then I can afford an extra beer. Ridiculous.
Yeah. So that's the extent to which they go through harvesting your data and trying to figure out what it is. There were other examples. The McDonald's app, for example, will charge you based on your eating habits. Oh, it's lunchtime. Give him this price. Oh, it's he's a working professional. He's probably gonna need he's probably gonna go for lunch at this time. Suddenly send in some data, you know, and send in some like deals or something.
Yeah, push notifications.
Yeah, and but the difference is, with the discount code, for example, your Domino's sends you a discount code every once in a while.
Every week, yes.
Yeah, every week. That's not price discrimination. That's a discount. This is that they're making you think the price is different. This is a different category of things because you're not really being informed.
That's true. I think, well, actually, the discount part does fall into third degree price discrimination, student discounts, senior, regional pricing differences. And let me see.
Yeah, there's to this.
Yeah. So it is like one of the degrees that we have discussed. I have Coca-Cola, which I think is ridiculous, what they did. So they're experimenting with vending machines that change price based on the outside temperature, potentially charging more on hotter days.
Yeah. And there was something about like all these vending machines were collecting data and like in universities across America. And when students found out, they were like really like, you know, they were miffed out about it. But even aside from that, there's like cola is something. It's like it's not a luxury good. It's like a non-essential good.
Yeah,
you know, you can live without it. But then there's stuff like Airbnb, which is stockpiling housing and shelter for people. And then they do all these sort of pricing schemes. They charge you differently based on like how far you're coming from. They'll charge you differently based on, for example, seasonality, location, demand. Demand is like, that's standard. That's standard, right? But based on your location is kind of wild.
But it's the same as the airlines, right? There's like, where are you located?
It's the same as what you said about like the software being sold for a different price in India. Like, they're looking at where you're from and being like, this is the ideal price they'd want to pay. But I think those living in Europe lose out. They'll always assume you're richer.
Those rich countries. But I think Europe is also a little bit more... Europe has all these regulations and laws that do not allow to keep data. I mean, of course, companies still do it, but they have all the, let's say, GDPR compliance. They have all the stricter data regulations that, let's say, other countries don't. So I feel in Europe, when they put you into one bucket, it's okay, imagine, for the whole European Union, we're going to charge you the same price for every country. However, you cannot compare a rich country like Switzerland, right, and somewhere, I don't want to say Romania is poor, but I would say, let's say, take a country in the Balkans that have a much, let's say, lower purchasing power.
Yeah.
And then charge them the same because, well, the regulation means that we have to be fair and equal. Yeah, but the company is located actually, let's say, in Germany or in the Netherlands, the KLM, and they're going to charge you more in a country that actually cannot afford that. So I think that I like the European regulation, and I like GDPR, and I like that you have to delete my data after a specific amount of days. But also that gives the companies this, well, you did this to me, therefore I did this to you, right? So an eye for an eye, and I think that also kind of sucks. So this is, I'm kind of defending the price discrimination concept because I feel it should be affordable. I have this, again, very conflicting internal feelings about this.
I've been thinking about this for a while. So where my line goes is like, one, if you're that bothered about it, you can buy physically, I hope. Unless you're disabled or old or blah, 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 then that's really scummy of them, for charging you different prices based on that, because that's just unethical.
Yeah.
Then there's the issue where... this happens in every market, but it should never happen in housing. It should never happen in healthcare, and travel, it should happen very little in.
Well, it's like a big difference. I feel that if there is a very large difference in pricing, I don't know, like I'm trying to think of, again, the same example with the traveling, let's say from the Netherlands, or buying a ticket in the Netherlands or buying a ticket in somewhere in the Balkans. I feel there should be a difference. Like, I don't know. I cannot explain that, but I feel there has to be some sort of discount-ish depending where you're going.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense for like airlines because there's limited seating on a plane.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for me that you'd be like, oh, there's only one seat left. If you want it,
that's true.
It'll go to you. I would like a blanket price based entirely on fuel usage and whatnot, but airlines are some of the most hardcore capitalist ventures on the planet, so that's not gonna happen. It comes in handy sometimes it's like, oh, $30 for a flight to somewhere in Eastern Europe. So it comes in handy sometimes. Yeah, just sort of. It goes both ways.
I wish that would be the case, though.
I wish that would be the case more often. Yeah,
that's true.
We all like price discrimination when it benefits us.
Yeah, of course. But I like what Google has right now because you can compare the dates and the deals and when it's going to be cheaper to fly. Yep. So you can kind of cherry pick that. Skyscanner is great. So for those I like. But also there are some. I use a Chrome extension. It's called the Honey. Mm-hmm. It also what it does. It finds sometimes pretty cool discounts for
me. Now it never finds discounts. I kind of just deleted it because what happened was that company is pretty much just a data harvesting company.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you're never giving me the discounts I need, so why do I have you on there?
For me, it does sometimes. Not often.
Not anymore. It used to in the beginning.
I still get sometimes like 20, 10, it depends because I buy a lot of software. For software, it really helps me.
For me, I buy a lot of like hardware, music instruments and stuff.
Yeah, maybe very niche.
Yeah,
that they're not getting.
Also, I generally buy from like local companies. That might be an issue. Like if you buy from like Bucks Shop or Bowl.com.
Yeah, they'll
be less likely to give you a discount. Just also because those companies might not like honey. as a data harvesting company, as a GDPR hazard.
It's like, I don't want to do it. I'm just going to open an offline store, come in and touch the hardware.
Yeah.
But that's what you should do, right?
I mean, I try to buy physical as much as possible. In this house, at least, I'm probably the person who least orders stuff from online, unless there's legitimately a thing I can't get locally here.
I haven't been to a clothes store in such a long time.
I never buy clothes without actually physically touching them.
I haven't been to a store like that, I think, for 2 years now. Seriously.
They got your sizing and everything?
Oh, sometimes I just ship it back and try again. But
I'm too much hassle for me.
Dude, that's like such a low effort for me.
I don't think I've ever in my life shipped something back.
I've
definitely returned stuff at a physical store, but that just sounds like so much hassle.
Wow, we're so different. Well, I have a joke for you. So why did the online shopper get upset with the algorithm? Because it charged him extra for being too predictable.
Oh, no. Now this feels like me. Huh? In terms of jokes, well, I had something, now I forgot it. That's why I need to write these down in the notes.
You should.
But then you'll see it, you know? I need to surprise you with how lame they are.
You owe me, I think, already 3 jokes at this point.
I did a double last time around.
I think so, yes. Well, thank you then, everyone who was listening. So I think we also will try to upload this more than just YouTube and all the social media. So because we fixed the sound, that means that maybe we'll be able to get into Spotify as well. So I'm quite excited. Thank you, everyone who's listening. See you next time, and have a nice one.
Peace out.